This is the thing. Who you choose to hang around with, who you choose to have in your posse is exactly who you become. Choose your posse wisely. I'm here to tell you that putting yourself first is not selfish, it's revolutionary. Welcome to the Woman Warrior Podcast, empowering women to light their lives on fire through Ayurveda, yoga, spirituality, and fitness. Jai Bhagwan, everybody, and welcome to the Woman Warrior Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Satyavani, and I have my fabulous co-host,
Prajna Madhavi. Hello.
Hello. We are so happy that you are here with us today, and we are going to talk about mental health from an Ayurvedic perspective, because it seems to be not only a continuous topic,
yes,
but it seems to be something that is popping up again. At least I'm seeing a lot of that. Maybe that's just because Meta is tracking my entire life and feeds into it feeds into all of the things it is that they think I should be knowing about. So I don't know.
Yeah,
it's a little freaky.
Mm-hmm. It is.
It is.
Yeah,
it's a little freaky.
Like, oh yeah, I was talking about that. That's why that's showing up on my feed.
Your phone listens to you.
Yeah.
There's no two ways about it. So if you think that when we go down the rabbit hole, we're wrong, we're not. We are not. So let's start today with a wellness check-in. We've had quite the week.
Yeah.
We have. So what's going on with you?
I had a 3-workout day today, which is kind of rare for me.
How did that feel?
You,
no, it's not. But how did that feel?
I'm still awake, but my body, I'm going to sleep well tonight. Yeah. And, people at the gym were just so amazed. They're like, 3 workouts? And I'm like, it might be amazing to you, but Satyavani does it all the time.
It is amazing.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
No, I was thinking about, okay, I worked out 3 times before 11 a.m. So
that's the cool part. Yeah. That's exactly what I felt like this morning. I'm driving home because this is how I drive. Mm-hmm. And I'm like 1,100 calorie burn before 11 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah. It's awesome.
Awesome. No, continue, please.
I would say that, I was thinking about this last night. I was like, what am I going to say in my wellness check-in? And, I will tell everyone out there that having a community of people that push you and keep you grounded at times and get you out of your head. So today we are talking about mental difficulties, issues that you have, and everybody has them. I've had my own this last week. As stories come out, I have, thought myself of having head lice. I've thought myself of having fleas. I've thought myself of having, hip problems. Yep. I've thought myself
kidney disease,
and lately kidney disease.
Kidney disease was this week. That's right.
And it just amazes me how everybody out there, when you put yourself in that position, and we talk about you can think yourself sick.
Yes, you can.
That is what I deal with on a daily basis. And it is so refreshing and good to have a community of people who are like, okay, here we go again. Just pay me the $20 and I will tell you that you don't have this. And, shout out to my doctor, Dr. Parsons. He was pretty much same thing. Like, you do not have this problem. Like, you're fine. And, it's just get out of your head, get out of your way, and start allowing life to unfold in front of you. And that is what I am learning.
I love that.
And it's a continuous battle.
Yeah. So since we're talking about mental health today, and thank you so much also for sharing that. That's huge. Because I think a lot of people think that oh, we're just happy and clean all the time and everything's fine. It's like, no, we're just as fucked up as everybody else. Okay. So I appreciate you sharing that. But in the line, in that vein of all of that, what do you think the root of the issue is?
Well, I think a lot of the root of issues comes out of fear of the unknown. For me, I think it's also a journey towards perfection. I want everything to be perfect. I want my health to be perfect. I don't want to get that. I don't want to get that. I don't want to, have to worry about that. And, it's weird. Like in the not wanting to worry about that, that's exactly what I'm doing. Like, oh, I don't want to worry about that. So I'm going to worry about not worrying about it.
Productive.
Yes, very productive. And
I'm just messing with you.
I know.
Okay.
And I talk to my brothers. I try to talk to my brothers once a week. We have a meeting with the bros. Every
bro
Monday.
meeting.
Yes. And we actually were able to get together last night.
Yay! Because I know sometimes it's hit or miss.
Yes, it is. And through different discussions, one of my brothers is very kind of stressed out about his health right now, and I wouldn't even say about his health. I would say that what he's stressing about just in general is, again, creating some of these health problems.
Sure.
And so, me being the sister that I'm trying to be, I'm sending him podcasts and being like, "Hey, listen to this." And today I literally just told him, with the podcast I sent him, was this will lessen your fear, encouraging him to listen to it, and then I said, you can literally think yourself sick.
Yes, you can.
And so, and just leaving that there, and just wherever it lands, it lands. But I don't.
You're such a good sister.
Feel like I would be a good sister if I didn't, And I've learned that. I think from you and the people I've been around that it's not always about saying the safe thing. It's sometimes about what they need to hear.
That's right.
Whether they're ready for it or not. If they're not ready for it, then
they're not ready for it.
They're not ready for it, and they won't take your advice. But when they are ready for it, then they will maybe look back at it and say, okay, maybe she had something here. So,
I love that.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah. So I'd say that's some of the, that's kind of all of it. The physical, the mental, the emotional, that all kind of gets wrapped up into all of that. So
good.
Yeah.
So good.
How about you?
Living my best life.
Nice.
Living my best life. Just, as you know, just got back from San Diego visiting the mom and the bro. But actually got time to spend with my mom alone.
Yes.
Since Dad passed, and yesterday or 2 days ago was my father's would have been his 78th birthday on this planet. So Dad, I love you and I miss you. But it was really nice to spend time with my mom. And we went to this tea house in Escondido called the Grand Tea Room. And so shout out to the Grand Tea Room and its owners in Escondido, California. And they just do a phenomenal job with doing a traditional English tea. My mom was like, I want to go out and I want to, take you there for your birthday. And it was her first outing in probably about 6 months because of the orthopedic surgeries and the recovery and the rehab and then my dad and, the whole thing. So it was really nice to go out. And at first she was a little nervous, but she felt very encouraged and safe that I was there, and I kept encouraging her. And she has graduated from using a walker to a cane now, and is also intermingling that with free walking without any implements or any other devices. So that's super helpful, and I'm happy to hear that. And I gave her a weight regiment, these little 3-pound weights, so that she can start doing some strength exercises. And she checks in with me every day. She's like, I did my exercises today, and I did my walk. And so Mom, I'm so proud of you, and yay, just like keep moving forward. You're doing great. And I want to keep encouraging her. And then I got to spend some time with my brother, who is just hilarious at times. Like, the two of us just laugh about the funniest stuff. And laughter is like the ultimate medicine. So, as we talk about mental health today, I really think that there needs to be an emphasis also on, like, yes, we can think ourselves sick, but also like the ability to laugh at ourselves is such great medicine. And it mitigates a lot of things like anxiety and depression and all of that, because it literally immediately boosts your serotonin. And I also agree with you that like being in community, that's super helpful as well. So I love when I go down there, I have a small little San Diego community at the gym at Valley Center Fitness. So shout out to Marco and Valley Center Fitness. And, that's been wonderful. And then, physically just I'm out of shred, 16 weeks. I'm happy. I have not gone to get final results yet because when I was traveling, that was my 16-week mark. And I'm like, I always give myself an extra week after the travel for things to kind of land because the vata air gets inside. And so it can bloat and all of that. So I give it about 7 days to settle down. But we had a killer workout today. I did 3 workouts today as well.
Yeah.
Did the Fit Body.
Standard for you.
It is, but it also ties into my mental health, wellness that we'll talk about as well. But so folks out there, Praj and I are getting ready to do our first Spartan race in July. July 21st is the day in Huntsville, Utah. And of course, I was like, I'll just choose the location that's close to us. And it turns out to be an incredibly difficult course at a ski resort at 5,000 feet. And so I was like,
super excited.
Oops, didn't see that one coming. And I love how I looked at the other events and it gives like a description of the course. And all the other ones are like, flat, great for beginners. And then the one for Utah is like steep climbs, beautiful views. I'm like, that's not a good
luck.
sign.
Good luck, new people.
Exactly. It sucks to be you. I'm like, that's not a good sign. So we have come to the space with this Spartan race that there are 3 things that could possibly happen. And this has implications on this podcast. Either Praj and I will become closer as colleagues and BFFs and podcasters and co-hosts and all of the things, or she will never talk to me again, or there will be a homicide. And guess who is going to walk away from that homicide alive? Not me. So
it's either the 2 of us still doing the podcast, you by yourself, or it won't happen at all.
Exactly. So stay tuned.
Yeah.
We'll let you know what happens. But actually today when we were training together and doing the circuit, I thought it was a lot of fun. And, it requires hard work.
Yeah.
So, and started training with the O2 trainer this past week and got up to 6 minutes on the Stairmaster, and it's miserable. It's miserable, but it works. It totally works. So I'm like, okay. What I have learned, though, from working with an O2 trainer, and for those of you that don't know what an O2 trainer is, it's this horrible device that you put into your mouth that restricts your oxygen intake. And the purpose of it is to increase your lung capacity for things that happen at elevation and all of that, or even, endurance sports. The thing I did learn is that I actually do not breathe as deeply as I should. So that was interesting. So then I was like, okay, I need to start breathing deeper through my nose and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, that was at one point when I was doing...
marathons?
No.
You're like, no.
I mean, you do... Actually, when I was training for the one marathon that I've ever done, it was a breathe in and then air goes out at certain steps. Because,
Gotcha.
I mean, you're running a lot. So you're putting a lot of miles in. So there's really not a whole lot of other things to do other than just focus on your breath.
Right.
So, you breathe in for a couple of steps and then you just shoot the air out. So I would find a rhythm with that.
Nice.
But then once I started, got introduced to yoga.
Yep.
And really started thinking about the breath and like deep breathing and, focus on the breath. Then anytime I would go out to either run or something like that, I always tried to keep my mouth closed.
Yes.
And if I couldn't keep my mouth closed,
then you got to pull back.
If I was losing my breath, then I had to pull back. And that was key for me.
It's interesting you should say that because today on the Stairmaster, it was on speed 11. And I was doing every other step, and like the first couple of minutes I was fine. And then, then it starts to get intense. And I noticed that I was like out of the mouth kind of thing. Like, nope, this is not the point. And right there, I saw the connection between panic and breath. And it was like, okay, you just have to slow this down, take longer inhales, through the nose. And I, as a result of shifting that up, like panic went away and I wasn't overly panicked, but it was just like, oh, I feel this elevating inside of my system. So.
And I started to feel it when I started doing Fit Body Bootcamp classes.
Did you?
Yes.
Okay. So what did you notice from there? I'm curious.
Just felt very uncomfortable with losing my breath.
Oh.
It was very uncomfortable for me.
Okay.
Because I had kind of trained myself that I don't go beyond being able to control the breath through the nose. And
in a natural, mediated way.
In a natural way. Like if I go beyond that, then I need to pull back on my intensity because I want to keep my breath slow and steady.
Yep.
So that's,
It's interesting because I found that actually, and this I learned, with Krav, and specifically having to do those horrendous EMI drills, that when you get to that point, pushing past it versus pulling back, that's where like gains happen. And sometimes, I mean, like you come out of that and you're like, and you feel that very deep, dry space inside of your lungs. So learning that. On the, I would say the spiritual side or the mental, emotional side, I have incorporated beginning yesterday, July, I'm going to make July my 30-day Yoga Nidra challenge. Do 30 days of Yoga Nidra.
Nice.
So, and it's been nice. I'm doing it in the afternoon. Like I do all the physical hard work in the morning, come home and I eat and then do a Yoga Nidra and then whatever I have to do in the afternoon, whether it's like seeing patients or clients or, podcasting or whatever. And that's been really nice.
That's great.
I mean, it's only been 2 days, but getting back into it, I'm like, oh my goodness. Like when you discover that, you're like, wow.
Yoga Nidra is amazing.
Oh, highly, highly, highly recommend Yoga Nidra, my friends. So,
especially when we're talking about mental
health.
Mental health. Yoga Nidra can be a very nice tool.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we're introducing a new format into our podcast. So as always, we do our wellness check-in. We are now going to engage in today's topic, and then we are segmenting our podcast because that seems to be something people like for us to do.
So if you like our wellness check-in, you listen to the wellness check-in. If you like the, main bulk of what we talk about, you listen to that. If you like the oracle card at the end, you listen to that.
Absolutely.
So you can kind of pick and choose.
And we are going to add a section called Try This, Not That. So we're going to support Ayurvedic principles vis-a-vis stupid shit. So you guys let us know in the comments for both Spotify and with our YouTube channel and let us know what you think.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So mental health.
Yeah.
So my understanding based on our conversation is that you had some questions you wanted to ask.
I do.
Okay.
Yep.
Let's do it.
So the first one is in relation to your book.
Yes.
Okay. So in your
I'll
book,
be shameless.
From Pain to Power.
You can purchase this book on Amazon.
Yes. So in your book, you talk about a period of your life when you had struggles.
Oh, huge.
Health. Yes. And you can all go get the book and read it and see those struggles. But I would like you to speak to that a little bit as to, tell us more about that time in your life and kind of what the struggles were and what you dealt with.
100%. So as you know, and I apologize for recapping a lot of this because I know you know my story, but I was a very competitive athlete and was a competitive swimmer. And then I started racing triathlons, et cetera. And one day I was training and I got hit by a car on my bicycle and sustained a ton of injuries, 2 dislocated shoulders, dislocated right hip, a broken left femur, concussion. And as a result of all of that, I went through 18 months of surgery and recovery. Back to back, I had back-to-back surgeries because I had one shoulder and then I had to rehab that and then had to go have another one. So
you got to have one you can use.
Exactly. I had to have something.
Yeah.
I didn't quite get down the feet usage, so I had to separate the shoulders into 2 different surgical procedures. And all of this happened, I was 19 and was definitely, I come from a type A family, type A world, growing up as a New Yorker. Like they always say about New Yorkers, we're not passive aggressive, we're just aggressive aggressive. Something I am very proud of. And so having gone through that process, then right afterwards, it terminated a lot of things in my life at that point that I had as my core. And to a certain degree, especially when you're young, you create an identity around things because you're kind of taught to do things in lockstep. You go to college and you achieve and all of that. And so that idea of achieving things became my identity. That's what you do. You are the student athlete, you are the thing, et cetera. So after those things were quote unquote taken away from me, which now at 50 years old, I can reflect back and be like, this didn't happen to me, this happened for me. Yeah. But at that time it was like, why is this happening to me? I sunk into a very deep depression. And what's interesting that I know now is at that time, I fit a very specific profile. I fit a profile of a young middle/upper middle class gal who had 2 parents in the home that had excellent health insurance. Mm-hmm. And simultaneous to that, at 19, so this is, 1990, because I was born in 74. No, I'm sorry. 74, 84. 94. So this is 1993 ish. At that time, the rise of the pharmaceutical companies really started to take effect. And there was a lot of marketing around Prozac. And so that famous book that came out, Prozac Nation, hit basically around the same time that all of a sudden, of course I was depressed and sad.
Yes.
And so that unfolded. And at the time, after I'm going through the surgical procedure, then of course the recommendation was like, okay, she's sad and depressed. You should go and see this psychiatrist. And so simultaneous to that, as I consider myself a fire child, I'm very pitta in nature, that fire and water element. I also have this, big intensity side. And I think that's what a lot of athletes have. They have an intense side. And so on one side, I was very depressed. And then on the other side, I had this intensity. And so then I received a diagnosis as a result of having bipolar disorder. And so that next leveled things. If you're going to go big.
Which is so interesting because that could actually be a lot of people who get diagnosed with bipolar.
And you are spot on. And the number...
Looking at it through an Ayurvedic lens.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Absolutely.
Because we're not just one constitution.
No, we are not. Actually, if you look at all 3 constitutions, you can be high anxiety, bipolar, and clinically depressed.
You're just out of balance.
Exactly. Yeah. So to that point, I was then diagnosed with bipolar disorder, and that launched a whole series of events, and for the record, I definitely had manic episodes. What I understand that to be now is I had this very intense fire and energy that desired creativity, but was being held back. And as a result of being held back, it's like trying to put a cap on a volcano. Yeah. That someday it's going to blow. And so
all that physical activity had kept that going.
That's exactly it.
You didn't have that.
That's right.
At that time.
And that's why, when we talk about training, you're like, oh, you train 3 times a day, and it's like no big deal. It actually is no big deal for me, not because I think that I'm like a superhero or an Amazon, although I do aspire, but rather that is how my constitution operates optimally and keeps things in balance, having that physical outlet of things. So you're right. I had no ability to have a physical outlet. And then every medication under the sun is being recommended to me. I mean, at one point in time, I was taking Prozac, Wellbutrin, Seroquel. I took 2,000 milligrams of lithium a day. And people are like, lithium is just a salt. Oh my God, you have no idea what it does. And then a variety of anti-anxiety medications, antipsychotics, et cetera. And so that prescription cocktail that I was taking. And you have to take into account, people are like, oh, well, where were your parents? Like, my parents weren't educated in this, not because they were not intelligent people.
We're trusting the doctors.
Exactly.
They knew what they were doing.
Exactly. So they were trusting doctors, and the doctors were saying, well, she needs to take this, and now she's got these side effects, so she has to take this. And, and it becomes the thing that we see in Western medicine all the time. And that is exactly why I went down the trajectory of Ayurvedic medicine, because I came to a point about 6.5 years later, after I was in and out of a psychiatric facility, on and off as an inpatient, as an outpatient, seeing a psychiatrist, doing 2.5 years of electroconvulsive therapy, where that was the technology or the treatment that was used to treat people who had rapid cycling manic depression. Put on 75 pounds, had all of these digestive problems as a result of all of the meds, et cetera. And so I tell all of my patients and my clients now, like when I do their intake and we talk about things, and they're like, well, I take this medication. And I'm like, there is not a damn thing you could tell me that I haven't taken, experienced, or any of the above. So, yeah. And then finally, about the age of 25, a little bit before, about 24. So it was about a 5-year period where I was like, I'm done with this. I cannot live this way. I was a shadow of my former self. And actually, my doctor had a meeting with my mom and my dad and myself and said, she may live on public assistance for the rest of her life because I became a non-functioning human. At the time, simultaneous to all of that, I did 2 master's degrees back to back, and I was teaching high school social studies in New York City.
Woo!
Oh yeah, overachiever much? Ugh. But taking all these meds, trying to battle all of that, and I had absence after absence after absence until one day, my principal came to me and she's like, I think you need to take a sabbatical. And that was it was a punch in the gut, because I was like, I can manage all of this, I can, et cetera. And at the same time, the best gift I had ever received, because she was like, you got to get this organized. And so I did. And I decided that I was going to get rid of all of my medication. And I went through 6 months, and my psychiatrist thought I was nuts. The irony of that. He's like, this is unsafe, you can't do this, et cetera. And I understand why he felt that way from a clinical standpoint, but I was like, nope, not doing this. And it was very much my personality. I was like, nope, not doing this anymore. Got rid of all the meds and went through 6 months of major detox. Yeah. Because those prescriptions are potent. It was like there were nights where I felt like I needed methadone. That's how bad it was. And I think about the potency in the early 90s compared to what it is now. Yeah. It's exponentially worse now.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay.
So there it is, friends.
Yeah.
And it's all in the book.
Yeah. It's quite
the fire
journey.
chapter.
Quite a journey. So from an Ayurvedic perspective,
yes,
today, what do you think are the main culprits for mental disturbances?
Okay. So the main culprits, well, I'll start out with saying that I think the largest mental health disturbance, and I like how you put that, because they are diseases, but they are dis-ease, their state of being out of ease. I don't see them as like these diagnoses that you're going to have for the rest of your life. Yeah. Because that was appropriated onto me. It was like, you're going to take medication for the rest of your life. You're going to be the bipolar kid, et cetera, et cetera. And I was like, yeah, I'm not doing that. I would say that the highest diagnosed state of dis-ease, I think most people experience anxiety. I think anxiety is a big one. And a close second to that is depression. And I think that the culprits around that are pretty simple. Poor diet.
Yeah.
Lack of exercise. Lack of sunlight. Lack of community. Despite the fact that everybody thinks that like, oh, I'm online and I'm in all these communities. No, you're not. You need human contact, like real physical human contact, preferably in the sun, drinking water. And I think those are the big pillars that cause us. And also, like, what is the definition of anxiety? The definition of anxiety is having too much to do in a shortened period of time. And that idea of having, I don't have enough time to do all of these things, which has become, therefore, the scapegoat for not moving our bodies, not being meticulous with our diet, not getting enough sunlight, not being in community enough. That whole idea of like, I just don't have enough time, which is a bullshit statement. That idea is a mental construct. It is something that we have been led to believe that we don't have enough time. The reality is you have all the time in the world.
Yeah.
It is just a matter of creating that space for yourself. And that whole like, well, I can't because of my kids, or I can't because of my job. That's on you. That is on you. You can absolutely create time for yourself to do those things. You can create 30 minutes, 45 minutes, 60 minutes of your 24-hour day to do something for yourself that incorporates healthy diet, exercise / movement, sunlight, water consumption, and community. And there's actually places that you can do all of that in one place.
Yeah.
Those are the culprits.
Okay.
Now, from an Ayurvedic perspective, we talk about mental disturbance. The first step in mental dis-ease is our disconnection from source. We are not connected to something that is higher than ourselves. Whether you call that God, the universe, it doesn't matter. But understanding that you are a small piece in a much larger universal cosmos, when we feel disconnected from that, and the way we feel disconnected from that on the micro level is we're not in community, we're not moving our bodies, we're not getting proper nutrition, et cetera, et cetera. When we are disconnected from a higher source, when we are disconnected from the source in which of who it is that we are, that's where mental disturbance happens. That's the starting line.
Yeah.
And then all of these other things unfold. I was actually, prior to this podcast, with a patient, and the patient was saying, next time when we get together, I would like to talk about my inability to not be able to calm down and my desire to always be productive. And I said to her, your desire to be productive is how you calm down. That's who you are. She is a Pitta constitution. We are people that like to be productive. And we actually find meditation in our ability to be productive. Now, it doesn't mean that means like, oh, I've got to do everything on my Post-it list, but rather like the idea of being productive by moving forward, by taking action. That's in her constitution. So why would you deny yourself that?
Is the discussion that she, and knowing this, knowing this patient, would you say that her productivity is focused on outside things from herself?
That's a great question. And that right there, look how smart you are. That is the key to whether it turns into mental dis-ease or whether it turns into mental ease. If it is outside of herself, it's going to cause mental disturbance and anxiety and all of those things. Yeah. But if it is productivity within, like I like to clean the house, I like to read my book, I like to create my to-do lists and check off. If that is for the self, then that will create the sense of ease. Yeah. So our disconnection from source is the first thing. The second part is that that's the starting line. So as soon as we're disconnected from source, our nervous system feels that, and our physical bodies then therefore react. We either go into fight or flight, which is usually the standard, or we go into rest and digest. When mental disturbance comes from constantly being in fight or flight. And so we're disconnected from source. The mind starts to create this monkey mind, this pattern of constant movement, or as we say in yoga, the vrittis, the fluctuations of the mind. And then we start creating stories, and then anxiety comes as a result of that. And then I'm anxious about my anxiety, and and then
I'm worrying about my worry.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm worrying about the fact that I'm worrying. And,
Yeah.
and then that's where that starts to unfold. And then it goes in a variety of directions and pops up with different labels, in our current Western
When we talk
allopathic
about
system.
with Vata, it's the flight.
Yep.
The Pitta is the fight.
Yep.
The Kapha is the freeze.
Exactly.
Right? So
That's exactly it. So we have Vata, Pitta, Kapha, and depending on the person's constitution, it will manifest in different ways. People think that anxiety and depression are two different things. They're the same thing. They're two sides of the same coin.
yeah.
When Vata gets activated, that air and ether in somebody who has a natural Vata constitution, they're disconnected from source, the anxiety starts, and they respond with acceleration and like, oh my God, everything's all over the place and I can't get it under control, etc. Pittas responds with the fight side, with the, oh, okay, this is how it's going to be. I'm going to fight this. And then there is frustration and anger and aggression. Kaphas respond when there's a disconnection from source. I don't know what to do. I'm going to freeze. And as a result of that freezing, then it can turn into a very
nothing.
heavy tamasic, I'm not going to do anything, and I get depressed.
Yeah.
And it becomes very heavy. So anxiety, anger / frustration, and depression, if there were three sides to a coin, they would all be the same thing.
Yeah. It's very interesting.
Yes.
Which again is the fact that, you can have, multiple things, these constitutions, they're within us all, and they're all going to show themselves in different ways.
Absolutely.
From an Ayurvedic perspective,
Yes.
how has current society, Western medicine, what are they doing wrong? Where are they getting it wrong?
I don't even know where to begin.
I know.
So I'm going to rant a little bit.
And how would Ayurveda do it right?
Right.
Yeah.
So what's very interesting, so you recommended this book, and I'm very happy that I got it. It's called Good Energy by Dr. Casey Means.
Yep.
And I want to be very clear. I am not criticizing Dr. Means. What's very interesting about this book is, the premise, and I'm only a couple of chapters in, but I have an idea of where this is going, is that we need to look at ourselves holistically, and that ease versus dis-ease happens as a result of balanced, comprehensive, well-distributed energy throughout the body that actually starts with our metabolism and our digestion. So when I heard her story and her explaining this, I wanted to throw the book out the window because Ayurveda's been talking about that for 5,000 years. So I'm just like, okay. What was eye-opening, and to your question, is, and I appreciate what she talked about here, she specialized in, and she's left allopathic medicine.
Yeah, Western allopathic, they're all about the specialization.
The specialties,
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
So she was an ENT specialist, ears, nose, and throat. And I loved she enlightened me. I loved even how she talked about the more specialized you get in that specialty, the 6 inches of the bones.
I just do ear surgery.
Exactly.
That little part of the ear. Yeah.
That the more props you get, and it was just like, Om Namah Shivaya. I just can't. I just cannot. So where allopathic medicine goes wrong is that it looks at ourselves as disjointed parts.
That I only know that one part of the ear. I know nothing about how it's connected to the rest of the body.
And I truly believe that that's part of the plan. Keep everything disparate so that we're pumping specific medications, specific prescriptions, specific diagnoses, specific prognoses, specific treatments, etc., where we just maintain that one piece, which we know our entire being is interconnected physically, energetically, mentally, emotionally, consciousness, spirituality, our spiritual connection, etc. We know that. But if we keep it separate, not only are we making money off of it, but it's going to wreak havoc in the whole the other parts that are not that specialty so that we can continue to use folks as guinea pigs to keep them sick.
Yeah. And pump money and pharmaceuticals into them.
I know that firsthand.
Oh, you have this, issue with this drug. I know what will fix that. We'll give you this other drug to solve that problem. And then creates.
That was me. It was like, oh, you have depression? Oh, and as a result, you can't sleep? We'll give you this. Oh, well, there's a side effect from the sleep medication, which is causing acid reflux, so we're going to give you this. I mean, there was a time when I was on 14 different medications a day. There's something wrong with that.
Yeah.
And so what Western medicine does is that it pulls all of it apart, does not see the whole, does not look at people synergistically. Now, I don't want it to sound like I'm only knocking on, Western medicine. And I've said this 100 times. I've said this throughout the years we did the Ayurvedic Woman program, talk about it with the Dharma Circle, all of my patients, et cetera. Western medicine is not innately bad. Mm-hmm. It is misappropriated and it has stock options. The misappropriation is the biggest part. It is meant as emergency medicine.
Yeah.
If you get into a car accident, if you fall off a building, if you fall off a ladder, trauma cases, that is its purpose. It is not preventative in nature. It does not look at creating optimal health for people. So knowing that, just know what you're getting into. I do not go to a Western allopathic medicine doctor for anything at all.
Yeah.
If something happens where I get into an accident or something along those lines, of course, let the ambulance come pick me up, stitch me up, the whole thing, et cetera, et cetera. That's where I think the key is. It doesn't look at the whole body and the systems and how they're all related. And everything starts with the gut. That's what Ayurveda talks about. You have good gut health, you have good brain health, respiratory health, circulatory health, name it, endocrine.
And in the book, that's what she's referencing.
Yes.
As far as
yes.
metabolic.
She's exactly. She's referencing metabolic functioning, which is all about the functions of Pitta dosha.
Yeah.
To metabolize, to digest, and to transform.
Yeah.
And so I equally appreciate the book because it's
getting the word out there.
It only supports our cause.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, it pisses me off because it's 5,000 years.
You have to wrap it up in that package to get people to listen.
And make it a New York Times bestseller.
Yeah.
I have a little bit of an issue with that. So there you go. But
yeah.
So did that answer the question?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Ayurvedically, are there some practices and treatments that you would recommend for people who have anxiety, depression, what they're feeling?
Yep. All of the things. 100%. I don't even know where to begin.
I know you
on
mentioned
that list.
Yoga Nidra.
Yep.
Would be a great.
Yoga Nidra is an excellent practice. Making sure that you have a dosha specific pacifying diet for whatever the state of dis-ease is. So from an Ayurvedic perspective, the first thing that we do when there is a sense of dis-ease, as you know, is we look at diet and lifestyle. Yeah. What are you actually putting into your body? What are you not putting into your body? If somebody who deals with anxiety is pumping themselves full of caffeine, not helpful at all. If somebody who is dealing with depression is eating super heavy foods and getting drunk all the time, not helpful. If somebody who has frustration and anger / rage issues, that causes them to have heated emotions, things that are heating the body, spicy foods, doing hot yoga at noon in the middle of the day of the summertime, alcohol, not helpful.
Yeah.
So we look at those things first. Then we look at various different herbal regimens that may, on top of it, help to support that, and strictly for a short period of time. I'm not a believer that people should be taking supplements for the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
Now, the unfortunate thing is that we have poisoned our water, air, and food. So there's a lot of nutritive value that supplements in the United States can give you that we're not getting from our food. which is extremely unfortunate because food is the best medicine. And then obviously yoga, the physical practice of yoga asana, is its own category of medicine. So yoga asana, dosha-specific pacifying diet, herbal regimens, drinking a gallon of water a day, being around positive people.
Because again, all of those will help you get connected with source.
Absolutely. And yoga nidra. And actually my biggest thing, and this is probably somewhat selfish, is taking action.
Yeah.
So when we look at fight, flight, or freeze, the way to get out of those situations, the way to get out of, oh my goodness, I'm going to fly away from this, I'm not going to deal with it, or I'm going to take this on very, very aggressively, or I'm going to hide from it because I'm frozen. The best way is actually to take mindful action. So in this situation, what would be the best thing I can do? What is the next best step for me to take? And for me, as a Pitta constitution, exercise has always been the thing. Like, how do I channel how it is that I feel this fire, these fiery emotions? How do I channel that into physical exercise? And what happens is, and that is like all doshas across the board, and specific exercise associated with it. If I'm high anxiety, you want to do things that are going to counteract that. So not all exercise is equal in that sense, but the moving the body does so many things.
Yeah, like when I was talking about my wellness check-in, just for me, keeping my breath under control was the pacifying part for me. It was pacifying my anxiety, pacifying. That was something that I needed.
Yes.
Was, okay, I'm getting too stressed out, like my breath. I've lost my breath, so I have to back it up and get my breath back under control. That's the action I have to take.
That is a beautiful action.
Yeah.
When I get frustrated or intense, lifting heavy weights helps me, or fighting, like, going to Krav and doing that kind of thing.
Yeah.
That helps. How do I metabolically, no pun intended, but how do I metabolically transform that energy from something that can be imbalancing to something that is balancing? Yeah. And what that does, it boosts serotonin, and it boosts all of the neuroepinephrine and all of our good emotions that will then bring that down. It can also, allow yourself to open up to laughter. So, yeah.
How has Ayurveda helped you fulfill a life of purpose?
I think the question is more, how has it not? So when I think back of when I first got exposed to Ayurveda, or rather how it was gifted to me, because I truly believe it came as a gift, it was at a time when I needed it the most, and things weren't working, and I had just come off this 6-month detox of medication. I was a little bit lost. I was fat. I was inflamed. All of the things, et cetera. And I think the most impactful part was the education side of it, learning what my primary constitution was. And when I get out of balance, what are the things it is that I can do in order to bring it back into balance? So that education side of it was super important. And what it did is it created for me a mission in life. So when I first met my first Vaidya, or my first Ayurvedic doctor, and she told me about what were the imbalances, and this is, what your natural constitution is. A lot of the preconceived notions that I had about myself vis-a-vis society and others really went away. And what I mean by that is good girls don't get angry. Good girls don't compete in intense, heavy sports.
Stop being a control freak.
Yeah. All of those things. And what Ayurveda taught me was that is who you are, and that is okay. When it's to the extreme and it's causing
out of balance.
And it absolutely can. and then learning what that barometer was.
And what action to take.
And what action to take. And once I learned what the barometer was, what action to take, it fueled my purpose of, I have no choice but to share this with as many people as I possibly can.
Yep.
So that it doesn't become, I've got to fit, like everybody's walking around thinking that it got to fit into a box. And I got to fit here or there, you know, whether it's with this social group or my career or whatever the case is. And they're not allowing themselves to be who they truly are. At the root of Ayurveda is living a life of purpose through who it is that you are meant to be, who it is that you came into this world as, and celebrating that. And I think most of the mental disturbances out there, anxiety, depression, frustration, there's a myriad of diseases, mental diseases, is the root of it is people trying to be something that they're not.
Yeah.
You know, and I always use that basic example. I am never going to be 5'9". Not going to happen.
Yeah.
Get over it. You know, and it's like, that's not going to happen. Stop pining to be 5'9". And this is the vehicle that you got. Celebrate that vehicle and maximize its potential. And that's where that purpose comes from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want people to feel the way you did when you found out.
I do. It was so empowering.
I would say it was for me too. And I would say that Jesse, like people that I think there's a lot of people out there that would say, wow.
Oh.
Like we were even talking about it with, the twins that Jesse trains.
Yes.
Like we got in a conversation about it today. And
I love that.
they're like, oh my gosh, I didn't even think about it that way. I'm like, it's amazing. And
It'll change your life.
Yep.
And that's really what the transformative power of Ayurveda is. And so, again, when I read a book like Good Energy, I totally understand the purpose. And at the same time, this is a 5,000-year history of just trying to get individuals in this human body to understand that you are a soulful being that has a purpose that is unique, and allow that to be. I had a conversation, I've had a back and forth conversation with one of the gals at Krav who I love dearly. And she's just coming around to the idea of her physical constitution that it's okay that I'm this size and let me maximize its potential versus I'm trying to starve myself to death to have this Barbie ideal when that is never going to happen. So maximize the fact that you are strong as a mofo and be happy with that. I'm not going to be as strong as she is going to be.
Yeah.
But I also have other qualities that I've maximized that lead my life of purpose. You do the same thing, et cetera. And it's so empowering. And I think that's where Ayurveda veers off from allopathic Western medicine and even other medicines that keep people in a box.
Very good. Thank you so much.
Thank you for the questions.
You're welcome.
And I hope everybody that was helpful for you. So be who you are. And if you want to find out who you are, let us know. We're happy to help.
Yep.
You innately know who you are. But if you need some assistance and guidance, we're happy to assist in that process.
Yeah.
I think it's time for our next segment.
Yes.
Try this, not that, which is the invention of one Prajna Madhavi. So what do we have on the docket today?
So today, since we're talking about Ayurveda and it's, hopefully prescriptions to help mental disturbances, we have something called the Dinacharya, which is a daily ritual or routine. It's effective in cultivating and maintaining a healthy mind, body, and spirit. And so I figured we'd just kind of go through, it may not always end up this way, but start with number one.
Okay.
So number one, wake early in the morning.
Yes.
And
let's just focus on this one for today.
Okay, let's do it.
The idea of mental health and how it ties in. So why don't you read the Dinacharya suggestions? So try this, friends. This is the try part.
And actually, this came up today in training as well.
Okay.
So with one of the twins that was training, she was mentioning that she keeps waking up between 3:30 and 4.
Yep.
And I'm like, actually, that might actually be when you need to wake up. The issue is you don't go to bed till 11.
That's a larger issue.
I'm like,
Okay, but let's tackle two things.
Yeah.
Well, one
Anyway.
thing at a time, rather.
The air is naturally lighter from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. So waking during this time creates more energy throughout the day and peace of mind, as well as freshness to the senses. If possible, try waking up without an alarm and avoid looking at your phone, emails, social media right after you wake up.
Right. So try that. So let me just say one thing to the early morning awakening time. So from an Ayurvedic perspective, that very early time in the morning, and we'll just say for all intents and purposes, 5 a.m. As a wake up. And not every body constitution should be a 5 a.m. wake up. But for the most part, I think all the body constitutions can kind of gather around that. And give or take an hour, because we have these stupid things known as daylight savings time and springing forward and all of that, which screws everybody up. Leave the time alone. But 5 a.m. from a Vedic standpoint is considered the auspicious time of the day. It is the time when we are most connected to the universe and source. So as we're talking about
It's also kind of called the witching hour.
the witching hour.
Yes.
I like the witching hour.
I
It's kind of
know.
fun. It's where all the spirits are floating around. And so as we're talking about mental disturbance, this idea of how mental disturbance starts with a disconnection from source, getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning, it's when right before the sun rises for the most part. I know in the winter it comes up a lot later. But it's also when like the universe is quiet and the planets are aligned, et cetera, and we can hear our soulful selves talking to us. That's the beauty part of getting up early.
One thing that will add to that, and that is try to be consistent with that. One issue, I don't know if it's this way around the rest of the world, but in Western culture for sure. We got the weekends, and we like to stay up late on the weekends, and we like to sleep in on the weekends.
Yep. And what do you very beautifully call it?
Jet lag, giving yourself jet lag. That is not my term. That is actually from someone else entirely, but I love the concept because if you've ever taken a long trip and you've gone, in that airplane
to India,
to India, and you've, lost 15 hours and then you're waking up at like 2 a.m. And I mean, so what we're doing if you do that every weekend is you are literally giving yourself jet lag. You're staying up till 12, 1 o'clock on a Friday night. You're, sleeping until 10. And then by Monday morning, you have to get up at 5 again.
Right.
And it's causes a loss of, I think, productivity. It causes a loss of energy because you have shifted your entire circadian rhythm for 2 to 3 days.
Could not agree more.
And then you can't get on balance until,
the weekend again.
Wednesday or Thursday. And then you're like, well, Friday's here again.
Let's do it again.
Yeah. So.
Agreed. Don't give yourself jet lag.
Yeah. So the whole try this, not that is, not only getting up right around that 5 a.m., but really work on doing that every single day.
It makes a world of difference because I would say most days of the week, as you know, and you do the same thing, I'm up at 4 and anywhere between 4 and 5. Even on the weekends.
Yeah, I mean, teachers are notorious for, they get up super early during the school year. Summertime, they're like, yeah, I slept until 8. And I'm like, not me.
Yep.
Still getting up at like 5.
And it's even nicer in the summer getting up at 5 because the sun's up.
Yeah.
And it's quiet. Like, there are days.
I mean, summertime is when you're supposed to get up. Wintertime, it's like,
yeah. It can be brutal in the winter.
Yeah.
But a couple of weeks in, like you get over it. You just get over it, and that's what you do.
Yeah.
I love it. So, friends, try getting up early in the morning, the auspicious time of the day, around 5 o'clock in the morning. And what were the other pieces? And don't Check social media as soon as you get up.
Really avoid that.
Ugh.
Because then
And what were the other things on that? So no social media.
Social media, looking at your phone, checking emails.
There you go.
I mean, don't start your morning with what someone else wants you to do.
Bingo. And that someone else is usually Meta, or some technology. So try getting up early, consistently, see how it changes your life, and avoid the phone.
Yeah. When you first get up, don't just go, I'm going to get disconnected right away. Be connected with yourself.
Love it.
For a good hour.
Okay. All right, friends, we're going to wrap up our podcast today with our segment on the Oracle card. The Oracle card, what is it for the week, my friend? Which one did you draw?
Writing.
Writing.
Which probably kind of ties into your book. You heal, inspire, teach, and entertain with the words you write. You drew this card as validation of your dream to be a writer. Whether your medium is books, articles, or screenplays, the angels encourage you to explore writing as a career path. This will involve some sort of self-discipline on your part, as you will need to spend time engaged in this activity on a daily basis. The angels remind you that writing is an art and not a science. Therefore, it can never be completely perfect. Your ego may whisper fears and insecurities inside your mind designed to make you procrastinate about the writing project. If this occurs, call upon the angels, particularly the messenger angel, for confidence, clarity, and motivation. The angels will also help you find publishing outlets for your writing projects if you ask for help.
Ooh. Yeah. I love that. Mm-hmm. Well, and also to feed into our mental health theme, writing is an excellent outlet to get the journaling, to get the things that are in the mind out onto the paper and get them out of your head. Mm-hmm. I love it.
Yeah.
And shamelessly again.
Mm-hmm.
All
From
right.
pain to power.
That's it. From pain to power. Let's do it. Anything else, my sister?
I think that's it.
All right. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for joining us today for our segment on mental health. And as always, Jai Bhagwan.
Jai Bhagwan.
May your soul be victorious.
Is life hard? Yeah, it's really fucking hard. And you can also have the life it is that you want. You just got to work for it.